Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today I've got a Smith and Wesson M&P M2.0 Compact chambered in 9mm. Yeah, nice long names. Hard to say, and hard to say more than once in a row and get it right. This is one of the mid-size variants in the M&P line. So this is really kind of a compact gun designed for concealed carry, the Glock 19 size gun. It's chambered in 9mm. It's also available in 40 and 45. And unlike a lot of manufacturers with their compacts, there's a few different barrel length options for this. This is the 4-inch barrel. It's also available in a 3.6, but it still has the same height, and it's available in a 4.625. And the difference with the 4.625 is it'd be a threaded barrel, whereas this is kind of a flush barrel and it's not threaded. So there's several different variations of, and there's also optics ready versions of these. So there's a number of combinations of this, which is kind of unusual. A lot of manufacturers, those combinations also come in just different sizes. So the full size usually is the one that'll come with threaded barrels. So they've kind of got a decent amount of diversity of options for you. And one interesting thing before I go any further with this one came in a plastic case, which doesn't sound like a really big deal, but most of the M&P line comes in a cardboard box, and that has annoyed some people. So this one came in a pretty good solid plastic case with enough room for the gun and 2 additional magazines. And speaking of magazines, I've got the 15 round inside of it right here, and of course it is unloaded. It comes with 2 of these, or 2 10-rounders. If you're in one of those states that 10 rounds is as good as it gets, then you can get this with 2 10 rounds. It also comes with 2 of these little sleeves in the box, which can then be put around a 17-round magazine from the larger versions of this gun that fits flush. One of the things that is often a problem, most of these, especially Glock and many of the others, you can put the larger magazines in the smaller guns and they'll work, but generally it's hard to get a hold of these sleeves. They often make them, they're often a part number for them, but getting your hands on one is near impossible. With this gun they come with 2 of them, so you can take 2 of your magazines from a larger one if you have one, put the sleeve on, and now you've got more than a full 3-finger grip and 17 round capacity in the 9mm, and it's contoured to fit in with the flow of the grip, so it fits nice. Or you want that low profile flush and you've still got 15 rounds and you've still got basically a 3-finger grip. You can see that half of my little finger is on the magazine, but it fits well and I didn't get pinched while firing this. So whichever way you're going to want to carry this, you've got reasonably small size. So it's 5 inches tall with the flush magazine, which basically fits flush in with the bottom of it. And it's 7.25 inches long for this particular barrel length. So it's a little bit longer slide than some compacts. It starts at a little closer to the reverse of what like the 19X is, where you've got the full-size grip and a compact slide. It's kind of almost the reverse of that. But you can get it in the 3.6 if you're really wanting the shorter slide. Nice 3-dot sights. And these are night sights with the tritium inner and an outer white ring. So during the day they stand out very well, and at night they glow green. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. They are dovetailed, they are replaceable, and this rear sight has a set screw that you can loosen and make it a little easier to drift it, so you can windage adjust it, but I don't call these adjustable sights. In my mind, adjustable sights, you simply adjust a screw and drive a sight mechanism back and forth, as opposed to loosening it and drifting it. Pretty much any dovetail sight is drift adjustable. These are just a little easier to do it because you don't need a press or hammer. And you do have a witness hole for a loaded chamber indicator. This one does have ambi slide stop slide release and reversible mag catch, but it's not an ambi mag catch. And of course you can see that it's got the front serrations. They're kind of that fish scale and they're easy to get hold of. And then the rear ones are a little more significant and equally easy to get a hold of, but neither one, front or rear, is sharp. So you're going to get a hold of them and you're not going to lose grip on them very easily, but they're not going to cut you up. And you can see it's got a 3-slot Picatinny rail. So lights, lasers, whatever it is that kind of floats your boat. This does have the hinge trigger that is common with the M&P line. Cycle it. It's got a decent amount of take-up. And it's a little squishy feeling just because of the hinge of the trigger, but I would not call it bad by any stretch. Back here at the back, just a hair of creep and then a nice crisp brake. Hits the over travel stop or stops just before it. Not a super short reset, but not a bad reset either. And you do, when it does reset, you're kind of off the wall just a bit, and then so a little bit of take up, you're back on the wall, and then a brake. I'll do that again just to make sure I didn't make the mistake. Yeah, it gives you a little bit of a hop, and you're off the wall just a hair, and then take up. Overall, it's a nice trigger. I have not found where this trigger made it difficult to stay on target or get the gun to pull a nice tight group. I like the trigger on these. There are better triggers out there, but there are definitely a lot worse. And I will say that the trigger is pretty much consistent with the M2.0s, which all generally have pretty nice triggers. So if you're going between this, the full size, or one with the threaded barrel, the longer slide and barrel, you're going to be able to pull consistent groups with them because the trigger works basically the same. The only one that kind of deviates from that is the new Shield Plus that has gone away from the hinge mechanism. And that we've got a review out on that one. That's actually a pretty nice gun. It is available with a thumb safety. This one is not. On striker fired guns, I tend to not like thumb safeties. There's enough internal safeties. You got your inertial safety, you got the drop safety plunger and all of that. I'm not a fan of thumb safeties, but if you are, and that's what you like, it's available. Within the M&P line, there's performance center variants. There's some that are optics ready, as I mentioned. So you've got a diversity of choices, and within the line of M&P pistols, you've got a diversity of calibers. This one's 9mm. 40 and 45 are definitely available throughout this line. So it does give you a lot of the flexibility that, similar to the Glock lineup, where if you can envision the caliber, they make one in it, other than Smith and Wesson has pretty much stuck to the big three, 9, 40, and 45. They tend not to have chambered in some of the more interesting calibers that other guns have. Of course, 380. They've got guns in 380, but not in the full-size M&P lineup. The MSRP on this is $569, but currently with everything the way it is and people buying things up in short supplies, you can expect that to vary significantly. From a shooting it perspective, the grip fits well in my hand. It does come with 3 back straps that are kind of a wraparound back strap with varying lengths of beaver tail. The one that's on it right now is the small one, has no beaver tail, and then if you flip it for the medium or the large, it starts to add a bit of a beaver tail, and it doesn't extend the beaver tail, it just kind of fits into the curvature of the beaver tail and brings your hand out just back a little bit so that it's even across your whole hand. These are easy to change out, and overall it's a gun that's easy to customize to fit you. The grip texture is the standard M&P sandpaper-ish texture. I call it sandpaper because that's kind of what it looks like and somewhat feels like, but it's not aggressive. So I'm running my finger across it and I'm getting grip. I can feel grip, but it's not, kind of grating on me or hurting me. When it's in my hand, if it moves a little bit, it doesn't hurt or shear at my skin, but it does stay put because you get a good grip on it. So it's a good, solid, easy to grip pistol that's comfortable to hold on to. Up against your body, this over time might cause a little irritation, but nothing that a t-shirt or a holster with a flap on it wouldn't take care of. Overall, it kind of struck a good balance. And these scales, you have to be pushing into them for them to catch. They're not sharp on the edges, so if you're just rubbing across it, you just kind of feel a little bit of serration, but it doesn't bite into your skin at all. When you put pressure on them, it bites in enough that you get a hold of them and they're not going to slip out of your hand. Maintaining these things, they're easy to live with. It starts with a lockback no matter what you do. The entire M&P lineup has, and it's kind of hard to see it, but right back in there, there's a little yellow arm. And when I get it apart, you'll see that more clearly. You can reach in with a pick and you can flip that down and it'll disengage the sear mechanism. Therefore, when you go to disassemble it the rest of the way, you don't have to touch the trigger. I tend not to use that because I'm locking the thing back. So when I'm locking it back, I'm clearly determining that, yes, this gun is unloaded. Pull down the little arm, bring it forward. If you've chosen to use that sear mechanism, then just go ahead and take the slide right off. Otherwise, bring it in battery and pull the trigger, and it comes right apart. Whichever way you do it, it works quite well. There, now you can see that arm a little bit more easily. And if you flip it down, the sear is disengaged. If you flip it up, it's engaged. So it gives you the best of both worlds. Whichever way you like to do it is how you can do it. Robust rails, or front and rear. locking block's a little longer on this one than some of the other, like the subcompacts, but it's kind of consistent with the size of the gun, so the different ones will have a different length of that. But overall, this mechanism is basically the same throughout all of them. And then the drop safety plunger right there. And it does have, as I mentioned before, ambi slide stop slide release. Going to the slide, it's well constructed, well machined. Here's your drop safety plunger back here. These have a single wafer style recoil spring with a steel guide rod. The 4-inch barrel. These are well machined. The feed ramps are what I tend to call machine polished. They're not polished to an ultra smooth mirror, but they are polished by taking another pass or two at it with the machine as they're going. But if you look at it in detail, you will see it's not perfectly, absolutely smooth. But I will say it's smooth enough. I haven't had one of these things complain about the ammo that I'm feeding it yet. Conventional rifling, well machined, well done, no tool chatter. So overall, it's a very well constructed barrel. And I will say that when the M&P line, they've really kind of over the years stepped up their game and turned these into very, very nice guns. Go ahead and drop the barrel back in and drop the recoil spring back in. And of course, it's important to make sure that you have it centered so that it doesn't hang up on the internals. Now, one thing I have noticed with this one that I haven't noticed with some of the others in the M&P line is, of course, I pushed up on the slide stop slide release, is it does have a tendency to hang up here. And what I've determined is it's the drop safety plunger or arm on the trigger bar hitting the drop safety and not hitting it quite right. And I've had to play with these things a little bit. And that's not something that I found characteristic with others in the M&P lineup, but it does not like to reliably go back together quickly without a little bit of messing around. And sometimes if I just mess with it a little bit, it'll do it. I don't want to put force on it because it is kind of a hard stop. I'm going to go, and by the way, playing with that little arm doesn't make a bit of difference on it. So I'm going to pause the video, I'm going to put this together. I don't know if that's something unique to this specific one, but I haven't seen this in the other M&P line. In the end, I just ended up wiggling at it and pulling it back and forth and playing with the trigger until it just caught it just right and then popped right back together. I may spend a little time to make sure that nothing needs to be polished in either with the drop safety or the piston or anything else. Now, once it's functional and it's together and things are lined up, the trigger is consistent and light, so it doesn't affect it when it's functioning, but it does tend to make it a little bit more of a hassle to put it back together. Overall, I do believe this is a good addition to the M&P line, and it kind of fleshes it out and goes all the way from the smallest with the Shield and the Shield Plus all the way up to the large full-size service weapon category. One thing I almost forgot to mention, that little yellow bar, if you pushed it down, when you reassembled it, the trigger would be dead. You have to either lock it back, reach in there and pull it back up, or if you just insert an empty magazine, that'll push it up, and then the trigger's operational. So if you choose to use the yellow bar and you put it back together and forget about it and the trigger's dead, don't worry, it's not broken. Either once you put a magazine in it, or if you remember and you go flip it back up, it'll work. I think what you're going to find is, unless you have a significant aversion to pulling the trigger during the disassembly process, you'll probably use it once, if that, and you'll realize it's just not worth the hassle. It's a cool feature to have. You know, I'm glad they give you that option. That's one thing that's nice about the M&P line. It's got a lot of options. So caliber diversity, size diversity, feature diversity. It overall is a nice gun. It's comfortable to hold, it's easy to shoot well, it's proven to be reliable, and it's reasonably priced. So there's a lot of pluses on the line and relatively few negatives. So if whether you're a new shooter and you're looking for a good quality pistol, or whether you've been in it for a while and you're looking for something new and interesting, look at the M&P line, whether you look at the Compact or whether you look at any of the other variations of it. Just make sure it's M2.0. One thing I did find is I really did originally hate the M&Ps. I'd tried several different sizes, I'd tried the Shield, and in the original iteration of these, the triggers were not good, and I really didn't like the gun. When the M2.0s came out, I decided, well, let me give it a try. Let's see if they've improved anything. Trigger was vastly improved. The M&P M2.0s are actually quite nice. Beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that bell to be notified if you do. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, Instagram, kind of everywhere. And thank you.
No 45.